I'd just like to ask you about the word community. Um, and I feel in some ways public health, which is my own discipline, is over in love with the concept of geographical communities. And I've been very influenced by the Germans' distinction between community, Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft, community and society. Because I actually don't feel a lot in common with my neighbours unless there's some external threat, because we're all on the move in the south. But I do feel things in common with, we've just met and I've learned you grew up quite near where I grew up. But that's what the Germans would call a society. And I'm very interested in how we can help housebound people establish links with people who are interested in Elvis Presley or a football team or Nietzsche or whatever. So have you thought about the idea of non-geographical
Yes,
society?
no, I think that's right. And so community is generally seen as being a positive concept, isn't it? To be part of a community is generally seen as being a good thing. But also alongside that, communities can sometimes have rules and expectations that you have to subscribe in order to be part of that community. And so I don't think you should have a sort of naive view of a community always being good. The other thing, as you say, Muir, is that community can be geographical, but actually it's much more of an interest, isn't it? So you might live in the same place as somebody, but nothing in common with them. Yeah. Whereas it could be somebody, as you say, that you play sport with, that you have a particular passion for in terms of the arts or in terms of faith, and actually that's a more important community to you. The other issue is that we engage at different extents within different communities. So sometimes we can be a peripheral member, sometimes we can be central to that. So I do agree. I think we have to be realistic about what we mean by the term of community and what it can actually provide for us. So when you think about housebound people, then what would a community look like for somebody who's housebound?
Yeah. Well, this is the work I'm doing with what I'm calling optimal aging. That firstly, you should get people out of their house as much as we can, but that's not easy. But we should certainly try and do that. But I've been interested in doing this with Birmingham. Firstly, getting everyone online, and I think that's been done anyway. The electricity companies are putting the internet in within the watch, so that's all done. And then I've been using Alexa, which is the Amazon. So you can start to have links with one or two people. But in the last few months, and I'm going to bid for resources for this. I've been invested in virtual reality. So, for example, that I could get 10 friends and we could go down the Grand Canal tomorrow, all standing. And there's a new, it's a treadmill that doesn't really move. The army have used it for years to train people how to go into villages. And we'd talk, 10 of us, living all over the place, we'd talk. And then we could walk over the bridge to San Vidal and go to a Vivaldi concert. Or we could go back to, you and I know a place called Byres Road in Glasgow. And we could walk down that together. And we could even go into the pub called the Tens together. So I think it is very clear now that many of the problems we assume to aging are due to physical inactivity, emotional inactivity, and cognitive inactivity. Also, I'm thinking a lot about, I'm doing away with the word retirement, but Renaissance housing. They should all be adopting some cause. They should be raising money against climate change or competing against one another. So,
yes. No, I think that's right. I think it's interesting thinking about your idea of the virtual communities. You think about the way that young people connect now. If they're interested in computer games, for example, or gaming, actually their friends they can see their physical friends that they see at school and college in the virtual world in terms of undertaking games, or they can connect people around internationally who are also competing in that particular opportunity. So yes, no, I think you're right. I think that there's a real contribution there that virtual reality can make, to have that shared experience of going to a new place or engaging in a concert and then reflecting on that. I think would be very exciting.
But it also applies to systems thinking in health and social care. Take a simple example. My daughter is got type 1 diabetes at 12. And she's now in her mid-30s, but she thinks what these young people need, like her, is boxing and high-intensity training. But they just go individually to the hospital and they go away again. So I think when we start thinking about systems, we need to think about the community of people, the network of people within it, and we should be people we should start to join up.
And that bit about, which goes back to that notion of social value of we undertake an activity, but how do we get additional community and individual benefits from doing that? So we come together to get our leg ulcers treated, for example, a classic example. But when we do that, we can also talk and share experiences. We can have suggestions about new resources, etc.
But let's just finish on that point, because I remember when I did work on this with, I wrote a paper in 1976 called Brainwashing in Oxfordshire about the problems of isolation. I remember a district nurse saying, we'll never cure those leg ulcers, because we say to the old person, put your leg up and your ulcer will get better. What we're saying is, put your leg up and I'll stop coming to see you. So you have to, the ulcer was the means for the social life for that old person.
Yeah.
So we need to think about isolation as one of the key issues, and need to think about the thing called the internet. I don't know if even, Tim Berners-Lee said his ambition in 2000 was no one would use the word the internet by 2010. So, systems and virtual communities, let's get on and do it.